I'd like to share with you some information. Reverend Nicole earned her Master's of Spiritual Psychology with an emphasis in consciousness, health, and healing from the University of Santa Monica. Shortly after, she found a home at the Center for Spiritual Living in Granada Hills, where she became a staff minister in fall of 2020. Nicole continues to expand her spirituality, having completed the Sacred Art of Living and Dying program, as well as Anamakara, my apologies, apprentice program in Bend, Oregon. She volunteers for the Freedom to Choose project, which runs workshops for incarcerated individuals, assisting them with self-forgiveness, positive communication skills, and releasing judgment. Reverend Nicole is inspired to enjoy the preciousness of life based on her extensive personal experience with life and the tragic aftermath of suicide. Nicole participates on the board of directors as the secretary of CSL Granada Hills. On September 12th, she is starting a history class on Zoom titled From Whence We Came, and she welcomes anyone who is interested in to join her. Connect with Rev Nikki if you have any questions or are interested. She also runs a very successful tennis academy and enjoys working and learning new things in her free time. Reverend Nikki has been with us several times, and we are so pleased to have her back. Please join me in welcoming Reverend Nicole Robinson.
Today. I actually didn't use Waze to get here. I checked Waze to see about the traffic, but then I just kind of knew how to get here. So thank you for having me come back so often. I've really enjoyed your beautiful sanctuary, and it's always such a pleasure to be here. So thank you. So happy Labor Day weekend. Are we all going to enjoy this weekend? Hopefully it won't be as hot. I was actually surprised. It was hotter at my house than it was here, and I was expecting the reverse. So when I got here, I was like, wow, it's 5 degrees cooler. I love learning about holidays and where they came from, and so I took some notes. The first unofficial Labor Day occurred 140 years ago in New York on Tuesday, September 5th, so tomorrow will be the anniversary, in 1882. When approximately 20,000 workers took unpaid time off to march from City Hall to Union Station in support of working class Americans. And I feel most of us are working class Americans. The impromptu parade of skilled tradespeople sparked an interest in a working man's holiday that radiated across the nation. February 21st, 1887, Oregon was the first state to authorize Labor Day, followed by Colorado, Massachusetts, New Jersey, and New York. It wasn't until 1894 that 31 other states had adopted the holiday before the federal government made it an official holiday. But many people were working 12 hours a day, 7 days a week. There was no minimum wage, there was no child labor law. And it wasn't until another 44 years, in 1938, that the Fair Labor Standards Act set a minimum wage and shorter work weeks to limit the child labor laws. That's kind of crazy if you think about it. My dad was born in 1936, so that was just basically, 84 years ago that we finally had this law that said, hey, guess what? You don't have to work so hard. And that's what I really want to focus on today. CSL, they have their annual topics, which is living everyday wonder. So throughout this year, we have looked at creativity, emotions, relationships, and finding everyday wonder in that. Some of us might be retired and go, well, I don't work anymore, my gardening in the outside. Some people are like, oh, I am working, supporting my church. I am supporting this nonprofit. That's my work. I used to say, well, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't have an addiction. But yes, I have an addiction. It's addiction to work. And I really wish someone had told my 13-year-old self when I got my first paycheck. How many of you have heard the expression, I work hard for my money? Have any of you ever said that? Yeah, I work hard for my money. And let me tell you, from the time I was 13, I worked hard for my money. How many of you heard money doesn't grow on trees? Yeah. I remember my dad said to me one time, what do you think, I'm made of money? And these are things around work. I wish my younger self would know that my work didn't tell me who I was. My success in work didn't define my value as a human being. That I laugh because my Instagram, one of my Instagrams is Tennis Nikki. And so for 34 years I've coached tennis. It's been my passion. I just love tennis. My email is Tennis Nikki. So I remember I was lying I moved locations from my job, and I was lying on my couch because my whole program kind of imploded. And I didn't know who I was. I was Tennis Nikki. I ran one of the top tennis programs in the San Fernando Valley. Everyone knew who I was. But when I changed locations, my business imploded. And I would say I went through a dark night of the soul when I realized it doesn't matter about my business. I am this valuable human being regardless of my accomplishments. Wow. I am a valuable human being regardless of my accomplishments, my successes through work. Did any of you watch the US Open yesterday? Yeah, I have been watching it. Well, you know I was watching it. Has anyone not heard of Serena Williams? Yeah, right? Well, she just announced her retirement and she played her last match in front of 60,000 people who were really willing her to keep going. But this younger tennis player, does anyone have it recorded and they don't want to know the results? A younger tennis player prevailed. Anya, she was spectacular. Venus took her 6 match points for the girl to beat Serena. Serena is such a passionate fighter. And I was sitting here as I saw her shot hit the net going, wow, she's done. I've known Serena since she was 8. Her sister used to play in my tournament. So I've known her for a really long time, and she's turning 41, I think, in September 26th. So this is a woman who's basically spent 32 years of her life as a tennis player. Now, luckily she married an amazing man and has a daughter, and I hear she wants other kids. But have you ever been in that position where your life has been only one thing for so long? You know, it's crazy to think how, I know for me, I just really wish someone told me that my work also wasn't my income, wasn't my source of my supply. Because part of that working hard, I worked so hard because I had no one to pay for me. I don't have a husband. My dad, when he passed away, left me 6 cacti. They're beautiful, but they're not going to pay the mortgage. So I knew that I wasn't going to get any sort of inheritance. So I've been working so hard to support myself. A single female owning a house in Los Angeles County. You know, that's a big ticket to pay off. But I was sitting here working so hard. And then one day I realized when I was on the couch, not making money, crying because my business imploded, my bills were still being paid. My friends still loved me. Everything was okay. It had nothing to do with my job as Tennis Nikki. I myself am a very valuable human being. And we talk about Walter Starkey saying we're spiritual beings in a spiritual universe, so we can literally create our universe. That's who we are. We don't have to we don't have to be so wrapped up in our work. I have a great quote here from Wayne Dyer, if I can find it in my notes. Apparently I don't have a great quote from Wayne Dyer in my notes. That's very crazy. Basically, he was saying exactly what I just said, that we are spiritual beings, and we're not our jobs, our spouses, our successes, our works, our homes, anything. We are divine beings having this spiritual experience. So how can we go into work and look at our work, whether we're retired or whether we're currently working? How can we go in that and be creative? How can we go in there with a sense of awe, with a sense of enjoyment? Many of us spend a lot of time working. And for me, the biggest thing for me was the financial thing. I worked so hard for my money. And when I was, I think I was a sophomore in college, my friend's dad was filming a movie in Japan, and she invited me to go and spend summer with her in Japan. What did I do? I said, no, I have to work. And I look back at my 19, 20-year-old self and go, wow. You know, what a crazy, like that was so ingrained in me that I had to work. Now, that same friend is, she just flew in from Maryland a couple days ago, and her dad and her family are renting a cabin in Idlewild for this week. Guess what I'm doing this week? I'm going to go spend time with my best friend and her dad in Idlewild, because I know that my work isn't my source of my supply. It's taken me a while to learn this. I almost didn't go to ministerial school, because ministerial school was on Saturday, and Saturday was my biggest work day. And I had to pay for ministerial school and not get the income from my work. A double whammy, and it wasn't just one Saturday, it was like 3 Saturdays in a row. What if my clients wouldn't stay with me? How am I going to afford my mortgage on my house? Well, we all know what I did. Because Dr. Moira, does anyone know Dr. Moira Fox over Redondo Beach? I was at a practitioner meeting there, and I said, well, I'm thinking about going to ministerial school. And she said with her Irish accent, well, why don't you tell the universe that you're going to go to ministerial school and become a minister? And I kind of said, oh, okay, I'm going to become a minister. And you know, she just was smiling, because once we put something out into the universe, it doesn't matter what our perceived things are that are going to stop us, our misidentifications, our limiting beliefs. We're going to become that, because the universe is going to give us the finances, the opportunities. We're going to meet the people at exactly the right time that are going to shift us into that mode. So these are like things in my life that I want to go tell my 20-year-old self, hey, Nikki, it's okay. I mean, you're going to be a minister one day. My 20-year-old self would be like, no, I didn't even know I was going to be a minister when I went to ministerial school. I was just taking classes because it was a lot of fun. So my brother has run a very successful tech business. I don't know what he does. It's all technology, and I just nod and call him, my computer's not working, please fix it. And it gets fixed. For 15 years, he and his business partner have run this great business, and his business partner wasn't really happy. There was just that inside urge to go and do something else, but he and my brother were best friends, and he didn't want to let my brother down. They kind of talked about selling it, and before the pandemic, and then the pandemic hit, and it was on hold, and so they kept working. But my brother's business partner, he really had an urge to do something different. So they finally found someone to buy it, and as of August 31st, my brother is no longer a boss. They sold the company. My brother now works for the company as an employee. And I found this wonderful Robert Frost quote: by working faithfully 8 hours a day, you may eventually get to be the boss and work 12 hours a day. So I was teasing my brother. I go, hey, now you get to work 8 hours a day instead of 12 hours a day? And we were just laughing about that. So I'm curious to see how that unfolds for my brother. Because as the boss, I was answering texts this morning about the business I run. And I'm just really curious to see, I'm kind of in that weird phase, and I'm really putting these principles and practices, trusting them, because I know I've told you this before about my workplace and such, that I'm really looking to see using these principles and how I can let that 20-year-old know that finances and everything's going to be fine, and just really explore the new creativity. There's this book by who was co-written by our noble CSL leader, Reverend Dr. Edward Viljoen. It is called Seeing Good at Work, 52 Weekly Steps to Transforming Your Workplace Experience. Now, for those of you who are retired, this is also a great book, for everyone, for transforming our everyday life. He has some really, really wonderful topics in this book that I want to explore today a bit. Number one, avoiding assumptions. Avoiding assumptions. We know the 4 agreements. Never take anything personally. My friend deleted a text they sent to me the other day, and I was like, oh, I wonder what he said. But I'm assuming it was probably something not very nice. But it could have been just, I'm tired, I'm going to bed. I don't know. So, avoiding assumptions, a good one. Listening for good. Are we a good listener, or are we answering the question before they even finish it? Are we thinking that we're going to tell them, oh, I know what they're going to, I know the answer, and I'm going to tell you what your answer is, but you haven't even finished talking. We're all laughing because we know we've done this, right? Let someone talk. Take a breath, pause, and then move forward. Accepting and releasing your mistakes. That's hard for me. I don't like failure. I don't like to make a mistake. Does anyone like to make a mistake? No. Are you a blessing or curse? Your attitude is independent of circumstances. It comes from your own self-talk, Michael Bernard Beckwith. So when you're in a group, are you just in a bad mood and you just kind of bringing the energy down, or someone says something to you and you kind of snarky react? So even at the workplace, are we a blessing or a curse? Being grateful. He has that in 2 parts, part 1 and part 2. A grateful mind is a great mind which eventually attracts itself great things. So when we're grateful, and part of when we're tithing, we're gratefully, if we tithe in gratitude versus I can't believe I have to give this to the church, it multiplies. So people are laughing about that one. So living in gratitude, gratitude journals, the sunset, first cup of coffee in the day, last glass of wine in the evening, a great Netflix show, your best friend sitting next to you, a phone call, a letter from a loved one. Relaxation and centering. I'm going to teach you a really short breathing exercise. It's called box breathing. We breathe in for 4 seconds, we hold for 4 seconds, we release for 4 seconds, we hold for 4 seconds. Let's try this. Breathe in, hold, breathe out. Hold, breathe in, hold, breathe out. Hold, breathe in, and so forth. That's a really great breathing exercise to calm our nervous nervous system. So if someone says something to us and we have a knee-jerk reaction and we want to say something back, or maybe someone cut us off in traffic, that's a really good exercise. So we can just kind of calm our nervous system. Like attracts like. What do you want to attract? Mental equivalent. We visualize what we want to see, we be what we want to see, and sure enough, it shows up. Like attracts like. Have we had that experience?
Oh, yeah.
Like, I'm trying to think of a good example, but there's many out there. Oh, here's my favorite one. Living with difficult people. That's part one and part two. That gets a two-parter. In conjunction with that, this is, I'm gonna like be vulnerable and tell you a little bit about myself. Being compassionate versus being a doormat. In the quest to be more compassionate, you run the risk of confusing kindness with letting other people do what they want, even when it has a negative impact on you. More dangerously still is the act of hiding your frustration and opinions behind a mask of, I'm a loving and compassionate person. Nothing can get to me. That is one of my things I've been working on. I'm so nice. Why are they so difficult? Look at me. I'm so nice. I learned a very healthy phrase the other day. Healthy aggression. Healthy aggression. I have spent my life not wanting to upset the table, wanting to be nice, wanting to be kind. And the other day at work, they wanted to charge me an insane amount of money. It was 105 degrees out, and I didn't work. And I used my big girl words with healthy aggression and said, no, I'm not paying this amount of money today. There is a national weather heat warning. No one came to class today, and I'm not paying for the courts today. I've never done that before. And guess what they said? Okay. They said no. And then guess what I did? What? I said no, I am not paying this money. It is not right. And guess what they said? They said okay. But I never had stood up for myself. Instead, I'd just be angry and like, I can't believe they're doing this, and I would be all frustrated. And it's okay, I'm learning to speak my truth, which goes back to the part of fear of failure, which goes back to the part of I have to work hard to support myself. It all kind of meshes together. Engaging in our creativity, doing something creative at work, maybe going to work a different way one day, reorganizing our desks, doing something different if we're retired, lightening up. Children laugh 100 times a day on average. How many times do adults laugh?
I laugh a lot. So.
I know. Except for Brandy. The average adult laughs 14 times a day versus 100 times. And I was thinking to myself, I go, I don't think I laughed 14 times yesterday. I don't even think there's days that I laugh sometimes. Coping with changes, that's a tough one. We like everything all nice and pretty. And most importantly, listening to your intuitive voice, the little voice inside of us. I always say the biggest changes come in a silent whisper. Oh, maybe I'll be a minister one day. I don't know. I don't think I can stand in front of people and talk. Or maybe I'm going to take a trip to Japan. So listen to those voices. Write them down. Because sometimes the universe will tap you on your shoulder. Hey! And then sometimes we get that cosmic 2x4 that literally flips us off our feet. So what I'm really wishing for all of us today, and I'm speaking to myself especially, is that I want to work to live. I read a quote one day that says, if you don't want to work, wait, what does it say? If you don't want to work hard, work enough until where you don't have to work at all. So I want to work so I can live, so I can enjoy my life. And I'm having so much fun with this ministerial stuff. It's just great. Like teaching these classes, I can make a lot more money teaching my tennis classes. But I know I don't have to worry about money because as long as I'm doing what my heart is calling me, I know that the money's going to come. And I don't have to know from where it's going to come. I got an SBA loan during the pandemic that I've been paying back, but I realized that was the moment, that was the first time during the pandemic in, 30 years that I did not work. I didn't answer a phone call, I didn't send out an email for about 6 weeks. I'd never done that since I was 13. And I'm in the middle of 50s now. And so it comes from where we don't expect it. And that was just another huge lesson. Thomas Edison said, I never did a day's work in my life. It was all fun. May we have that. Rumi says, everyone is made for some particular work, and the desire for that work has been put in our hearts. So, I want to leave with you today, if we all go inside, and just listening to our hearts, knowing that this one God, this one source, this power, this divine intelligence is guiding our work life, our home life, with peace, serenity, prosperity, creativity. And I know as we step forward throughout our day, throughout our month, throughout our life, that we work with ease and grace and peace and harmony, and most importantly, love. For this and so much more, I say thank you, I am grateful, and so it is.